My guest at this time is a veteran 20-plus year WWE referee. He is our good friend, Jimmy Korderas. Jimmy, welcome back to It's All Greek for me here on the Wrestling Week Daily.
No, awesome. Thanks for having me back. It's been a little while, but it's a good time to be a wrestling fan right now. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, I like to usually have you on after the big pay-per-view so we can kind of digest. Last week, I decided to run all the scrums and allow myself some time to breathe. But you are my first interview back, Jimmy. I couldn't be more happy to have you here today. Before we get to All In, though, which I do want to get some of your thoughts on, some big news broke last night. Samoa Joe relinquishing the NXT title due to injuries. Now, a lot of speculation that maybe it's not injuries. Maybe this is all coinciding with this NXT 2.0 tomorrow night. What's your gut say? On the level, not on the level? What do you think's going on here with Joe?
That's the question there, and I don't have any inside knowledge for anybody out there. Yes, I do still have friends there that I keep in contact with, but it's stuff like that I don't, really ask about. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
But I got a funny feel. It's hard to tell because Joe sounded so authentic, so genuine in that video I saw online that I think this is legit. And, he's had issues in the past, as we know. So I hope it's not. In one sense, I hope it's storyline. And then in another sense, I hope it's not storyline. And this is hard to explain and put it into words, if you know what I mean. But I have a funny feeling that this is, again, an authentic thing.
Yeah, well, just what's your feeling though about Joe coming in here, winning the title, and then so quickly having to drop it again? It feels like a fever dream. What happened here with the return of Samoa Joe to pro wrestling?
No, it was a feel good moment watching him walk back into NXT. You could see it in him too. You could see the excitement back. He had that fire back in his eyes, and he genuinely wants to elevate that product. He really wants to help, and there's a guy that can do it. To have him win the title so quickly and then have to relinquish it again, that's what makes me think that this is an authentic, for lack of a better term, because we don't know what the medical situation is. Injury is what they're saying, and he said it's indeterminate, but he will be back. So I'm hopeful for that, for his sake. And I just hate the fact that it happened so quickly.
Yeah.
And the easy out, of course, is going to be on NXT this week. They had the 4-way number 1 contenders match. Have that for the title instead is the easy out, or maybe change the road a little bit and extend it a little bit. Maybe you have these 4 competitors, draw that they have 2 semifinal matches.
Oh,
the winner of those 2 matches could meet for the championship, something like that, as opposed to just, okay, here's the easy fix. Let's do it.
Well, what's interesting to me about this period of time with NXT, Jimmy, is we're getting ready for this like NXT 2.0, but a lot of the stuff from NXT 1.0 seems to be the storylines we're using going into 2.0. Index, right? The wedding, even the 4-way, like all the top players seem like they're going to stay top players. What do you think NXT can be doing differently here with this 2.0 reboot to grab the fans and get the brand, I guess, back on track, so to speak?
I think it's going to be more cosmetic than anything. At least I'm hoping so. You know what I mean? Because NXT is one of my, if not my favorite show of the week, because it appeals to me personally as a wrestling fan. I'm not looking at it from a critique standpoint. I'm looking at it as a wrestling fan standpoint. It hits me where I live. The storylines are good. The matches are good. You have a little bit of a mix, different styles that mesh very well. I'm seeing 2.0 being like I've seen what allegedly is the new logo with the colors and stuff like that. Let me put it this way. If I could explain it, it's funny because last week NXT, I was watching it here in my little office. My wife was sitting there doing something on the computer, but she was watching out of the corner of her eye, and she goes, this isn't doing, she's not a wrestling fan like you and I.
Sure.
So for her, it was kind of like, it's all right, and now she's curious to see what this new look's going to look like because, she grew up watching SmackDown and Raw and the big production and the flashing lights and all that sort of stuff. And again, that appeals to a larger audience. I think NXT maybe needs to do some of that if they want to grow their audience. I don't know. But at the same time, the challenge is not offending that core audience that you got.
Do you think that giving Vince McMahon more control over the NXT brand will will be good for the brand, or do you think that will be a hindrance? Like, what do you think about Vince just becoming more hands-on, I guess, with NXT?
I think it depends on how much hands-on Vince gets with NXT. I think he's there maybe to oversee everything, but this is what I'd like to see. I'd like to see him let Hunter, just pretty much run things, handle the reins, and Vince just be there as kind of like an overseer and offer little things as opposed to going, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Like no ripping up the script an hour before going to air kind of stuff. You know what I mean? As kind of an overseer, but not someone who is completely hands-on. Let the guys who have been running it run it and just offer some suggestions here and be part of that. Like I said, overall production value, if you want it to present from a visual standpoint differently.
Well, I think that a lot of fans are hesitant about Vince coming in and really getting his fingerprints on it because of this, what Mick Foley said in the video he did last week about like the way Vince seems to view NXT talent, present them, even going so far as to saying if he was like a top name right now, he would really have a tough time giving his likeness and IP to a WWE based off of what he sees them do with like a Carrion Cross on Monday Night Raw. I mean, what was your reaction to what Mick said? Does all that resonate with you?
Now, I completely understand where Mick is coming from, and yes, I agree with what he's saying. I hate to sound so cliche again. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
the Carrion Cross was working. There was a character, and here's a guy that was right in Vince's wheelhouse with that character and the size. He had it all, and then he gets brought up to the main roster, and we have this. Was it a test? To have him lose in his debut match, and then to change him into Lord Humongous or whatever this new iteration is of Carrion Cross. Yes, I understand the appeal to children, and we've got some masks that we could sell on our merchandise thing and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, you have other talent you can do that with. You can, sell Carrion Cross to that other hardcore base audience that really buys into that stuff. And again, like I said, I don't understand why the change, because like I say, Carrion was right in that wheelhouse that Vince likes.
Well, and people use the terms like AEW does pro wrestling, WWE does sports entertainment. And, those labels are, I think, a fine distinction, but isn't it realistically more that AEW caters to adults and WWE seems to be catering more towards families? Like, I mean, does it just feel to you like WWE is like a kid's show now? Like, that's really weird for me,
Yeah, it's weird for me too, but at the same time, I understand it from a business standpoint, looking to the future. Because if you hook these kids early, like I was hooked when I was like 8, 9 years old, 5 years old, you know what I mean? And I've been a lifelong fan since then. Now, maybe their mindset is if we hook these children at a young age, they become lifelong fans. Maybe that's that mindset from a business standpoint. But then again, you look at AEW's business model; they're catering to that 19 to whatever 35 demographic. They have bought in completely. And my only concern is that trying to grow their audience, they have to expand past appealing just to that audience with their little inside jabs that they take on their Wednesday night shows and stuff like that. Yes, their audience gets it, but somebody who's tuning in to watch, that may not be a hardcore internet reader and stuff like that, and stuff like that, and he watches and he goes, no, I don't get it. I don't get why they're laughing. I don't get why they're popping for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And I having kind of been right up close with all these Chicago AEW shows, really, I don't know about maybe jarring the right word, but it's the word I'll use. But the difference in the way CM Punk came in and carried himself compared to a Bryan Danielson and an Adam Cole. I mean, the tone, like there's a real visceral anger there with CM Punk and his audience. They get into it. I watched this Woodstock 99 documentary on HBO Max not long ago. I encourage everyone to watch it. It really is a reminder of how easy it is to take young, disenfranchised, largely white men and whip them into an angry fury, right? Which is what I think a CM Punk does. Daniel Bryan comes in very, apoplectic, really enjoyed his, putting over his previous place of work, He did drop an F-bomb, which I guess is edgy, you know.
Yeah.
But by and large, his energy is much more of one of inclusion and not an attack. And I don't really know if there's a question in there, but I'm just kind of relating to what you're saying, because there does seem to be a bit of a mix right now in AEW of that kind of FU WWE mentality and some new characters that are less in that vein, you know.
Yeah, it's again, and I hate to compare it to politics, but it seems the same has happened in the world of professional wrestling, where everybody's planting their flag and everybody's saying we're on team AEW, we're on team WWE. No, why can't we just be on team enjoy what you like? Neither company is perfect by any means. All companies out there can improve and can tweak little things, or as I've heard the term used, tighten the screws a little bit here and tighten the screws a little bit there. But we can enjoy and not enjoy stuff from every company. Like I like stuff that I see in Impact Wrestling. I like stuff that I see in AEW. I like, you know what I mean?
I just think that AEW does a better job of rewarding their fan base and giving them what they want, right? Like I think that, you know, we can kind of move into All Out here a little bit.
Yeah.
That was a buffet of giving the fans what they want, right? Like you wanted Brian, you got Brian. You wanted Cole, you got Cole. You wanted Ruby Soho, you got Ruby Soho. You wanted CM Punk to come back, win his first match, you got that, right? There was a whole lot of here, give, all you want. I think the reason that there's maybe some fans that are so like anti-WWE is it almost feels like Vince is kind of flipping them off a little bit. I mean, you know, maybe there's something to catching them young and making them lifelong fans, but in the current environment here, it feels more like you're catching them young, and when they're 19, they become resentful of your product and become AEW fans. And that's very interesting place for WWE to be in at the moment. I don't know if you think I'm totally off base or not.
No, I don't think you're off base. And I can see your point, exactly what you're talking about. But at the same time, again, appealing just to that fan base doesn't grow your audience. That's my only issue. And yeah, I enjoyed the pay-per-view, the AEW pay-per-view very much. I was very entertained by, I mean, I could sit here and nitpick about little things with the officiating and little things, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you watch that audience, it was infectious. Even watching it on television, as I was, you were there live, right? So you got to feel it immensely. I was feeling it through my television screen, and that's what's been missing, unfortunately, for these last 2 years, without an audience there for any company, is getting that feeling, and it was translating to me. And as I was watching it and enjoying it, I was enjoying it more because of the audience, because you could see that they were enjoying it, and you could see the look on the faces of the boys and the girls and the gals. They were enjoying it too because they were feeling it.
Yeah, and if you're WWE, and I know it's hard to put yourself kind of in the mind of management there sometimes, but you work there for a long time. If you see a product like this come along, like AEW, and you see the momentum that it has, does it make you worried or does it make you excited? Because if wrestling, does the fact that AEW coming in makes the wrestling business more interesting, is that good for WWE? Or do you see the AEW kind of momentum as something that could maybe be a negative for WWE?
I think it should be a positive, because I saw it during the 83 weeks, so to speak, because I was there and lived through it.
Right.
But it made everybody there try harder. It made everybody there want to work to get to the next level and, for lack of, beat WCW. And I don't like to use the term, you know, wrestling wars now, especially because they're not competing on the same nights, which I like and dislike at the same time, you know, because there is a lot of wrestling through the week now. So, and as someone who is married, it's kind of difficult to get it all in. You know, we just recently celebrated our 22nd anniversary. I wanted to celebrate 23rd as well. So thank you. But it does. It makes them try harder. And the one thing WWE has to not fall in the trap of is taking shots at the other company like they did back in the day. I think that's the one little thing that kind of, I get why AEW does it, because they're the young kids, they're the cool kids, they're trying to elevate their game. So they take these little jabs at WWE here and there in a discreet manner. They don't mention them by name, but sure, we all know that these shots are taken. Unlike Hunter, who in that infamous press conference, that pissant little company thing, I think it was just Hunter being DX Hunter, you know, doing it and just having a little fun with it and not realizing that it was going to cause such a stir that it did.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I think WWE's best course of action is to just concentrate on themselves, try to improve their talent, and try to see if they could not just cater to kids, cater to a larger audience. I get the variety show aspect of it. Have something that caters to the kids, have something that caters to that 19 to 35 demo, have something, a variety show, so to speak, have a song and dance number, have a comedy skit, have a serious something.
Sure. Is it worrisome, you think, that so many really beloved talents right now are looking for the exits, right? I mean, Punk was not really a concern for them. I don't think that they ever thought Punk would maybe be coming back. But Brian, Cole, now we hear about Sami Zayn. We hear about Kevin Owens. We hear about Pete Dunne. Obviously, Bray Wyatt, they chose to part ways with for whatever reason. But that's like 8 big names in a very short period of time that were all marquee figures for WWE. Some of them they let go because of whatever reason, but others, these guys are now just making the decision to jump over to AEW.
I think a lot of it is the allure that AEW seems to be the place where guys have the creative freedom to express themselves as opposed to being handed something, and that for anybody in this business that is so appealing. And in the world of perception is reality, when people see all these people, these talents exiting and going to the other company, they start thinking, oh, there's got to be a reason why all these top talents are going there. There's got to be a reason. So maybe I'm going to tune in and find out what it is. And then they get to see these talents be themselves, or as Steve Austin used to say it, Stone Cold turned up to 12.
Sure.
Kevin Owens, imagine Kevin Owens turned up to a 12, or Sami Zayn turned up to a 12. We've already seen Daniel Bryan, like you said, drop the F-bomb and stuff like that. Even when he dropped it, I went, oh, okay, that's a little different. You know what I mean? But the only challenge for AEW now is they only have a finite amount of time, a finite amount of, I can't even speak English this morning. Let's say 3 hours of television a week to showcase these talents. Yes, they have their YouTube shows, but it's not the same as television. Television is where you garner your audience, is where the money is too, right now. That may change over time, but right now, TV is where you make your money. And trying to showcase these talents in 3 hours, the only problem they have is at times I find they try to shoehorn too much stuff into that 2 hours on Wednesday night and in that 1 hour on Friday night. And there's a little bit too much going on.
Okay.
For people to digest and absorb, if they somehow got Rampage, I don't know if Saturday night's a good TV night. I don't think that sounds great. Probably not. But if Rampage were a 2 hour show as opposed to a 1 hour show, maybe that would help. Right. I don't know. It's just a lot of good talent that there's just not enough TV time for. I'm
intrigued to see what they do with the Universal Studios connection. I mean, that seems like a place where they could, maybe start to create something else for some of these other talents, because, it's a good problem to have if you're the owner, that you have all these like main event players that want to be there. But if you're somebody that was there from the beginning, maybe was a top indie name, like a Sonny Kiss or a Joey Janela, you got to be watching these top spots fill up and starting to feel that push, I guess, down the ladder a little bit in terms of priority. It can cause some stresses in the locker room,
Yeah. Let's be honest, and you know this very well, Nick, that there are a lot of egos in this business, and when that happens, when other talents come in and push other talents down, so to speak, that ego starts to show, and people start to stew, and at times they let their voices be heard, and that's the problem they could be running into in the future. Right now, I'm not hearing anything. I don't know. I'm not there. But at the same time, I can only imagine when you see guys like Daniel Bryan come in, when you see Bryan Danielson, sorry. It's hard. It's hard. Exactly. You see a CM Punk come in. You see an Adam Cole, who a lot of people have referred to as the second coming of Shawn Michaels. You know what I mean? And you've got guys who've been there since day one going, yeah, but I put the time in here. And this guy just comes in and oversteps me. But there's a way to do it where these talents coming in can help elevate these guys who have been there and make them known to that audience that may not know them that well.
Yeah, and it looks like they're going to do that with Punk here right out of the gate, right? He's working with Team Taz, already gave the Darby Allin rub. So And with everything going on with AEW, there's a couple things I wanted to get your take on as far as like what WWE creatively is trying to do to, I guess, counter to keep momentum going on their own. One thing that surprised me was the decision to turn Becky Lynch heel. What do you think of the Becky Lynch heel turn and how it's playing out so far?
I'm glad that at least it seemed to work better this past Monday on SmackDown.
Yeah.
But at the same time, here is a hot commodity. People have been dying for her to come back and want to climb on the Becky train. And if you're a company who's predicated on merchandise sales and the overall aspect and stuff like that, there was a gravy train handed to you. And then you decide to go in another direction. Yes, we understand that she is in a relationship with Seth Rollins, who is a big time heel right now. And maybe that's the direction they're going. They're going to tie them together in that kind of fashion. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but at the same time, you don't have to make that obvious on television, at least right now. You know, ride that wave while it's hot. When she came back, she got that reaction. You heard that reaction.
Yeah.
Sometimes too soon. Let's put it that way. Way too soon.
Well, the other thing I find a little perplexing is just Monday Night Raw in general, I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of seems to me to show a lack of depth when you are having to pull from your tag team champions to create your top singles champion or the brand with Bobby Lashley. How do you feel about WWE's decision to go back to the well with Randy Orton as a main event contender there for Bobby Lashley?
I mean, okay, let's put it this way. It will be a good match.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the issue I'm having with Raw on Monday nights. It's not the in-ring product that I'm having a problem with, because the talent is fine. They're working hard. They're having good matches. It's the stories that are being told. And again, in this business, as I believe it was Rip Rogers who said it way back when, in the wrestling business, we don't sell motion, we sell emotion, which is predicated to draw your audience in. That's what they get invested in. They get invested in the characters. They get invested in the stories. They get invested in the psychology you're telling in a match, the story you're telling in a match. When you're giving them the same thing every week, like the same matchup, so to speak, and that sort of thing, it's hard to get invested if the story is not growing out of it. And going back to the well with this Randy Orton, getting back to your original question, which I kind of veered away from, it just seems like, okay, where do we go from here with Bobby Lashley? Well, we haven't got really anybody at that level yet that is on the same, plane as Bobby Lashley right now that we could put against him on the babyface side. We could go to our old standby, Randy Orton. Yes, he's in a tag match. Okay, so we'll involve the tag team titles in this somehow as well. It just seemed like a fallback plan as opposed to something that was hatched a while ago, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. All right. Hey, Jimmy, I want to thank you for dropping by, talking about All In and everything going on.
We didn't get to talk All In, but anyways, let me put it this way. It was what it needed to be for them. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was probably, I guess the more of the concept of the effect of All In. Like, I'm not going to get into the minutia of exactly every bout, but
right.
But yeah, I mean, that was a very historical show. Do you agree or not agree?
Yeah, it was what AEW needed to help elevate them. It's like now what do we get next? The only critique I'll have about the CM Punk thing with Darby Allin is great match. Loved it.
Yeah.
Thought it was awesome. I just didn't know in my mind whether Darby Allin was the right first opponent for CM Punk, because here you got CM Punk coming back, the crowd going crazy, wanting to see him, love the guy. You got Darby Allin, who looks like he's on a plane and on the way to becoming your next big baby face. Do you want the two baby faces collide? Yeah, I get it. It elevated Darby Allin because he hung with CM Punk, but I think, in my mind, I'm just saying maybe a good first opponent for him to get his feet wet would have been someone like an Ethan Page, because then the old adage, you can go get over without going over, and he could have done that easily for someone like an Ethan Page.
Oh, and Dan Lambert going in on Punk over the MMA stuff.
Dan Lambert, is he a natural for this business or what?
It reminds me so much of like the Jim Cornette Raw promos where they would just let Cornette go for like 2-3 minutes. And if you didn't know what was going on, you were just like, what is this crazy man talking about? But if you know, Like they really kind of they're letting Dan Lambert channel his inner Vince McMahon. I think like he is the Vince McMahon in the land of AEW at the moment.
He is awesome, and the funny part is, and I said this on social media, is he's hitting that diehard audience, that hardcore audience, right where they live, and that's why they're buying all in. And he's and you makes you think, does he actually believe what he's saying? Yeah, it sounds like he honestly believes what he's saying.
Well, you got to remember, Dan spent some time in MLW, and I think he may have done some Impact stuff too. So he's not like new to this. He's had some seasoning, and he's just getting shown to the world now. And I'm a big Dan Lambert fan. I think he's just fantastic. He's so good in that role.
Well, he's made me a fan, that's for sure.
All right, hey Jimmy, thank you so much for dropping by here this morning. Where can people go support you, follow you, all those great things?
No, obviously on all my social media, on at Jimmy Korderas on Twitter and on Instagram. It's at Real Jimmy Korderas, and I do my weekday daily ref and rants where I pick little critiques. Look, I don't do it to throw people under the bus. I do it because I want to see this business grow and be better. And contrary to popular opinion, I want all companies to do well, because when all companies do well, this entire business does well. So you can get your ref and rant t-shirts like this one right here. See, I'm doing my cheap Mick Foley plug at prowrestlingtees.com. You know, right there in Chicago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, a couple blocks from my house, actually.
Oh, cool. I've got a new one now that I kind of like. It's a referee t-shirt, but it says Canadian Heat Magnet. So apparently, because people jump all over me, it's funny, and I hate to keep you on here any longer, but I find it hilarious that when I critique WWE, people are I critique a little thing from AEW, and I get like piled on. Like I just. You know what I mean? Anyways, again.
Fickle fans, Jimmy. Fickle fans.
It's okay. I love that they're passionate, though.